Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. Hurricane season is upon us. The rains are here, and they are coming. That can wreak havoc on our homes or offices. No worries. Water Cleanup of Florida has you covered. They took care of my wife and myself. They'll do the same for you. Just call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 954-579-0356, 954-579-0356. For Water Cleanup of Florida. Not only will they take care of any issues you have, not only can you reach them any time of the day, any day of the week, but with certified, insured, well-trained contractors, they will make it look brand new. Whatever you have done will not only get done, but it'll look brand new. And you only have to go to one place. Again, 954-579-0356. Check them out on their website, WCUFL.com, WCUFL.com, and on the socials, Water Cleanup FL, at Water Cleanup FL. Believe me, if you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Miami Heat have been very gutsy in this playoff run, but it feels like they've hit a brick wall in the Denver Nuggets. So have the Florida Panthers with the Vegas Golden Knights. We talk about the Miami Heat tonight trying to stay alive in the NBA Finals, and a little bit of the Florida Panthers tomorrow night trying to stay alive against the Vegas Knights with the one and only Mr. 5 Reasons Sports himself, Ethan Skolnick, right here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. 5 Reasons.
Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. And is that Casper Ruud joining us right now? Did you see any facial resemblance between you and the Norwegian tennis star who was in the French Open final yesterday?
I've never been compared to a Norwegian before. I will say that was the first time.
Not surprising. Yeah, I mean, most of us Jews, have very few similarities to, the appearance of Norwegian blood. But all right, and is that a room in Denver or is that a room in the Scoop?
No, I'm home. I'm home. I did not make this particular trip for a variety of reasons. None of which have anything to do with not wanting to watch another team celebrate a championship, because I've done that before. But it was. To go out there for the one game, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, and so I'm here for a couple of days, and then we'll see if there's a game 7, I'll go.
Oh yeah, all right.
But right now I don't. I'm not anticipating that.
No, I mean, and this is not a good omen, and neither was Bernie getting knocked out by Conor McGregor. I mean, when your mascot needs a standing 8 count. Did they kind of just make light on that? They dragged the guy off the floor as part of the bid. Did you see this, or were you?
No. Not only did I see it, I'm the one who videoed it, and the video was used on the local stations all over the place.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, because I videoed it because it was honestly the stupidest thing I've ever seen the Heat do. And I don't. I mean, they don't typically screw that kind of stuff. That was very Marlins-esque, actually.
Yeah.
I don't want to mock them too much because they're playing well too. But I mean, I'm just in terms of the history of the organization. Like, I don't know what the idea was. First thing, you're running a sponsor event during the NBA Finals, which is just crass. Okay,
for some spray pain cream, which none of that stuff works anyway. I can attest to that.
Correct. Second, everybody hates Conor McGregor, so like, why? I mean, you've got Dwayne Wade in the building. You've got like, people who've been there the whole year. Why are you promoting? I felt bad for Jax, and then because he's got to go through this whole stage thing there. And then people were booing before Bernie got punched. That's the thing. Like, that's what I was videoing. Like, nobody liked that thing. And then you're punching your beloved mascot? Like, what? Like, I
may as well have had Jokic do it.
Correct, or his brothers.
Yeah, the brothers. You should have the brothers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, and then so that was even before he got hurt. And then what's funny was, there's somebody that I follow on, who I'm friendly with, I follow with on Twitter, who works kind of inside the Heat organization somewhere, and he says that there's going to be something that comes off of this game that has nothing to do with this game that's going to be a story. And it's funny, I'm like, wait, did Bernie get hurt? Like, that's the first thing that I thought of.
Yes.
And then Sam Amick, who actually we had on the podcast yesterday from The Athletic, reported about him going to the hospital and all the rest of this. And this, I don't know, it's just embarrassing. I'm stupid. Hopefully they never do anything like that again.
Was Pat Riley aware that this was happening? I mean, there's nothing that gets by him. I mean,
well,
how could he possibly allow that to go on?
He usually is aware of all of this stuff. Actually, I tell these stories about how I I had a friend of mine who she used to design, like she helped design like the locker room and stuff like that. And she told me the horror stories of working with Pat, because like he wants to know every single detail.
Yeah.
And like, it was like the trophy had to be etched into the shower just a certain way. Like all this, like Pat, people don't think Pat is on top of all that stuff, but he is. I mean, yes, a lot is delegated, but he knows everything that's going on in the organization. So I can't imagine that he was not aware that his mascot was going to get cold cocked. But
is the marketing guy still employed?
I don't know, but the thing is, all their people have been there forever, so they don't do stupid things like this usually. That's what was so annoying about it, I guess.
Seemed like something that Stephen Ross would have cooked up with.
Yes, exactly.
It feels Dolphins. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I may as well have had Tim Tebow come out there.
Tebow. Celebrate the opponent.
All right, that is obviously the fodder that we've used to dodge the obvious, which is that, the Flowers look like they're in a punch here, going back to Denver for tonight's Game 5. I thought Denver would win this series in 5. I didn't think they'd lose on their homewood, and I thought they'd probably split these two games in South Florida. How would you characterize these last two ball games, which it was kind of methodical? I don't know that Denver did anything particularly explosive in either of those games, but they just nudged their way away, throughout. And ended up winning by double digits both times.
Yeah, I mean, they're just better. Is it really? I mean, sometimes
could be a realization. Yeah.
So sometimes we overanalyze this stuff. It's just. I think what we saw in Miami was, they had an incredible run through the East, carried by Jimmy Butler, adrenaline, and timely play from their role guys. And so let's look at what's happening here. Okay, the Jimmy Butler thing is kind of cooked. Like Jimmy, at this point is a good player. He can't put you on his back right now with the ankle and the fatigue and everything else that he's dealing with. I don't think he has that game in him. Like we were talking on our show on 5 on the Floor, does he have 3 of them in him? I mean,
no, I just want one.
I don't think. I mean, I don't know if he has one. And then you look at the adrenaline, and I think the word you mentioned, methodical, is a good word. I think a lot of what carried them through the East was, this frenzy they got themselves into for Milwaukee, which they had a history with. The Knicks, obviously, you had that kind of media crush and everything else, and people hyping up New York and MSG and everything else. And then Boston, who obviously there's considerable history with, right? And then you go, okay, we're going to play this team in the West in Denver. We're going to do it after we squandered a 3-0 lead against Boston, so we end up getting no rest. Denver comes in 9 days rested. Altitude. A team that you don't really have this kind of enmity towards. There's no history there. I mean, the one game with the Markieff Morris thing, but nobody cares about that. So it's just kind of like Denver is just like they're just methodical. Like that's what they are. Like. And they're better than everybody else this year, but it didn't really get recognized for a bunch of reasons. One of which was they didn't win 60 games; they won 53 because they kind of shut it down in the last month a little bit, and so that skewed things some. But also, everybody was waiting for some more hyped team or player in the West to overtake them, and it just never happened. Like Memphis, okay, Ja's going to get his bleep together. No, that didn't happen, right? Okay, so. The Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George are finally going to get healthy. No, that didn't happen. The Lakers kind of happened. I mean, they had the trade that made them more dynamic, but they still weren't what I think the media wanted them to be. With LeBron and AD are going to return into what they used to be 3-4 years ago. Didn't happen, right? And then you look at Phoenix. Okay, they get Durant. Okay, and they're going to just blow through everybody. Yeah, but Chris Paul gets hurt again, and Ayton doesn't care, and they have no bench, and so it's kind of like. So everybody was waiting for one of those 4 or 5 teams in the Western Conference to just kind of turn it on and beat this team in Denver that they don't really understand, and it never happened. And so, the Nuggets show up on the other side, and they've got a guy who literally, if he gets 30 points and 14 assists tonight and they win, will have averaged a 30-point triple-double for the entire playoffs.
Wow.
He's right now at 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 9.8 assists for the entire playoffs. That's 19 games. Then you have a second guy in Jamal Murray, who he did a decent job on last game, but to me is the most underrated player in the entire league. And then you got a guy in Aaron Gordon who was the number 1 in Orlando. I mean, not a great one, obviously, but he was not. And now he's your number 3 or your number 4, and they're well coached. They don't step out of place. They know who their 2 stars are. They get them the ball. The Heat weren't going to beat this team. I just think that's where we're at this stage. Like I said, unless Jimmy was just supernova Jimmy, and we're not getting that guy. He's been under 50% from the field in 12 out of 13 games. We talked about this in the last show, and it's continued. And it's just he can't get to the level. Few guys in history have gotten to the level Jimmy's gotten to recently, but he can't get to it right now with his physical state. I don't believe, and that's so. And without him, they don't have anybody else who can do it.
Well, and he was going to the free throw line 12, 15 times a game. It seemed like in the early stages of the playoffs, they're just not going for those triple head fakes that you had mastered along the baseline many years ago, Skolnick, when you were an unguardable product.
That's true.
Out of
I didn't ask anybody to guard me. That's
all right. So it sounds like you feel the same way that everybody else does. That this thing is toast as of tonight. Lubie has gone almost MAGA Republican in defense of the Trump indictment, saying, well, after, thinking that they were in there with a shot, they shouldn't have been there anyway. So we should resign ourselves to the idea that this still was very favorable. And I would have to say, just as a sports fan, obviously in our area, and we're doing talk shows for a living, it gives you a lot more ammunition to go into than saying, wow, did you see that Marlin game last night? Well,
right.
Normally at this stage of the season, they'd be mathematically eliminated. We'd be talking about Dolphin training camp.
Right.
I think, well, it's only about 6 weeks away there from the OTAs. But what would you say about the season overall? And let's not presume they're going to lose tonight, but let's say they lose the series. Where does that leave them? Everybody was speculating before they even made the postseason. Well, what's Pat Riley got to do? To get them on track for next year. What is it that they need, and do they have the means to acquire it?
Well, I mean, I think that the overall season now has to be looked at as a success. Obviously, you make the finals, it's a success. I think we, this was a very frustrating season, and a lot of that's going to be put to the side now, which is good. I mean, that they made the season matter, and I give them credit for that. And obviously, Jimmy proved again that if he's healthy, he can carry you somewhere, and there was progress made from some others. But I don't think they were going to fool themselves anyway. I really don't. I think it's pretty clear that, if they would just give Eric Spoelstra more tools to work with,
it wouldn't be fair.
That they would come to this place with a much better chance. And so, look, you look at their assets and their non-assets. I think one of the things that's happened here over the postseason is that both Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson have at least made themselves flat assets, whereas both were negative assets before. And so that will be helpful as they're looking to make a move this offseason. And then there's the Tyler Hero question, which in some ways kind of resolved itself, because, look, they like Tyler, but they signed him into that contract, kind of with the idea that it could go either way, that either he was going to become a core third piece for them, or he was going to be a tradable deal. And so I feel like now we're leaning more towards the latter. And again, it's not all Tyler's fault. It's just, you can't look past the fact that they found the game and kind of a rhythm without him, and doesn't mean they couldn't have used him. Again, this series, I believe they could have. But I think they look at it and say, okay, what if we get somebody, that we can count on more than Tyler, just from a consistency standpoint and defensively, and then to a certain degree availability. Although, again, I don't really count, falling on the floor and hurting your hand against you.
No.
But it is true that he wasn't really healthy last postseason, and he wasn't healthy this postseason. And so Pat does take that kind of thing into consideration. So I think they're going to explore pretty much everything. Obviously, Dame is the name out there, and we had Sam Amick on, and he said pretty much what I've heard from others around the league, which is that if Portland doesn't trade that number 3 pick for somebody who Dame feels is a suitable number 2 to him in Portland that can give him a chance, okay, and I don't know what kind of chance he'll have in the West, but whatever, okay, then he's probably going to ask for that trade finally, and so. He's intimated, that Miami is the place he wants to go, or one of the places. And, people kind of know this is not a secret. Chris Haynes and him are very close. That was Chris Haynes' guy. Chris was kind of rising up the ranks. Dame and him have been friends for years, and Chris Haynes is the one reporting Miami the most right now. And so and I know Chris well, and he wouldn't do that if it wasn't legitimate. So I feel like everything is kind of moving in that direction, similar to what we heard with Jimmy Butler 4 years ago. And so now it kind of becomes, okay, does he force it enough that Portland sends him where he wants to go, as opposed to sending him somewhere else? Because these guys don't always get sent where they want to go. I mean, Kawhi wasn't sent where he wanted to go a few years ago, but he made the best of it. He won a championship in Toronto. It doesn't always work out that way, and sometimes teams can be spiteful. For example, Kyrie, the Nets owner this year sent him to Dallas. He wanted to go to LA. So don't count on it. But I honestly, there's more smoke than there's ever been. And so if that's the case, can you get him for Hero, one of your contracts, picks, or do you trade Hero for picks somewhere else, then send them to Portland? Because I feel like that's the direction that Portland's going to want to go. You also have Jovic, who they like a lot, but you may have to move him to get something work. You may have to trade Caleb Martin, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of different options, but I think that we're headed towards a Dame conversation summer here. I think that's where we're going.
And look, and Defo hates when I do this, and it's funny that you started doing it with him and his question. We are still in the finals. The Heat are there, and they have a game tonight. So to look ahead, may be a little presumptuous. But again, the series feels like it is what it is. Even if they some miraculously win, it doesn't feel like the Heat are winning the series. It's just... Look, it's good to hear you say that, because the Heat in the past, as we've seen a couple of times, have fooled themselves to believe the team they have is good enough. And getting to the finals was an amazing achievement. And I'm not trying to poo-poo this series. It's just the last three series I could see a way, especially once they won game one versus the Bucks. Right. This series, it was really hard to find a way, especially when you could see Butler wasn't the same dude. Whatever reason, he's not the same guy, and they're already shorthanded without Hero. So it was really going to be hard for me to see them find a way to win this series. So it's great that they got here, but my fear was, okay, now they've seen all these young guys do all these things. The East still is strong, and these teams are going to come back, and the Bucks are just going to be pissed again. So you're going to see what you saw, I think, a couple years ago out of them. And the West is strong. Like, to just assume this is a roster that's going to win going forward scared the crap out of me, to be brutally honest. Right. So it's good to hear that they realize, look, we capped out. This isn't the James Johnson, Deion Waiters. Like, we know where we are with this group, and we know we need more. I'm curious, do you see them being that aggressive, where they realize, look, we got to go. Butler has 2-3 years left, and we really have to do it now. We can't just keep waiting on these rotation guys.
Well, some of it has to do with money, right? Like, I mean, how much is Mickey going to spend? Like, that's part of this. So when you say how aggressive, I think that plays into it. I think that, he's always said, and Pat has always kind of, echoed this when Pat spoke. He hasn't spoke to us about the team in almost a year.
2-3 years, yeah.
Is that what he's typically said is that, they'll spend if they think Mickey will spend if he thinks he can win a championship. Now, okay, I don't know how much closer you have to get. Like, they were within a shot of the finals last year. They're in the finals this year. It's pretty damn close. I mean, they're not the Orlando Magic, so to me, you have to spend. I mean, I keep watching that Carnival stock price. It's creeping up over.
Yeah, people are cruising again, aren't they?
Yeah, it's creeping up over.
One thing when you had COVID, and nobody was going out on a boat.
Right. Exactly. Well, I think we all want to escape what's going on in this country right now. But yeah, 13. So we'll see if the city still exists after Tuesday. But $13, $14 a share now, so it's not the 52 that it used to be, but it's not 8 either. I feel like they owe it to the fans at this point to go all in. I do, and they owe it to Jimmy, and so we'll see if they actually do. But I mean, if Dame Lillard's out there, I don't know how you justify not paying the expense for that. I mean, you look at Dame, Dame's situation. Look, Dame this year was every bit as good as he was 3 years ago. I mean, he had an injury, but then he came back this season. He ain't the problem there, and they're not going to win a title with him. The closest they came was that conference finals and kind of a fluky Western Conference a couple years ago. It's not going to be repeated. He doesn't have anybody as good as CJ there anymore. I like Shaedon Sharpe. I like Anthony Simons. They're not as good as CJ, in my opinion. They don't have enough in the front court. He can't get it all in one off season out there. So I do think he's going to push to finally leave. I think to me it's a KG situation in a lot of ways. KG was incredibly loyal to Minnesota until he wasn't. And he had to be convinced to leave, and then he did. And then what happened? He won a championship. You put Dame, on this team, and then we're not as concerned about Jimmy, not scoring 40 because it just looks different. And, in terms of, and we're not as concerned about Bam kind of going in a shell sometimes, because as a number 3, damn, I'll take that. He's better than Aaron Gordon as a number 3, right? So I feel like, that everything moves in that direction. And again, will there be some regrets if you move Tyler and Tyler becomes an all-star somewhere else? Sure. But that's the price that they've always paid before. They've traded the really good player, the Glenn Rice, to get the Alonzo Mourning, the Lamar Odom and the Caron Butler to get the Shaquille O'Neal. This is the same, they traded Josh Richardson and not much else. I still don't know how they pulled that off to get Jimmy. But that's kind of where they're at right now is okay, you're going to have to give up something to get something that is more ready to win this moment. And Dame Lillard has been ready to win a championship for a long time. And so I just feel that's the direction. You got to pay for it. There's no excuse. And I don't think they'll make an excuse for that. I think if they don't get Dame, you could see him just kind of play around the edges here a little bit. Again, it's going to frustrate Heat fans, but again, the player has to be available to you. You got to go all in on the player. You don't get the player, then you kind of see what you do.
All right, Ethan Skolnick, 5 Reasons Sports Network, special guest here, and always a pleasure having him on talking hoops. Quick thought, I know you guys are following the Panthers, and they also appear to be up against it, going to Vegas. We didn't know Wayne Newton was alive. He rang the siren. You got Michael Buffer out there telling people to get ready to rumble. We think they might even dig up Liberace tonight and have him start the festivities. They did lose a Game 5 against Dallas when they were up at the time 3-1 after being up 3-0 in that series. They came back and distinguished themselves by shellacking Dallas in the subsequent game. Are the Heat alive with a chance in this series at all? And do you see the Panthers, do you see them having a shot tonight or tomorrow night against Las Vegas?
Well, I give them a better chance than the Heat. I'll say that. I feel like that series is much more even. I know it didn't look like it the first 2 games, but I also felt like a lot of that was rust for the Panthers. They took them a while to kind of regain their edge. But look, Game 3, they played very well. Game 4, they should have won, I thought. They outplayed Vegas the second half of that game. I thought they got the benefit. Well, not the benefit. I thought Vegas got the benefit of the officiating late in that game. I think and also hockey is, we know, much less predictable in that regard.
Very abstract.
Bob has a good game, and he has played well the last 2 games in my view. I don't think 2 of the 3 goals in the last game were not his fault, and I thought he played very well in the game before. He held him in it. I feel like they can compete with that team. Now, winning 3 straight is going to be really difficult. They have a similar problem to the Heat right now, is that their best player is not 100%. Kachuk's dealing with a shoulder, and it's clear he doesn't want to get hit. And that's crazy. He's such a madman. Like, he looked like he didn't want to get hit. He wanted to get off the puck. And then he's going at it with guys after the whistle, after the game is over. But he doesn't look 100% to me. And he's been their engine more than Barkov. And more than Verhaeghe, who has really only had the 1 goal and not much else. And Bennett hasn't been great. I mean, a lot of their guys have kind of hit the wall too, honestly. And so there's going to be some reevaluations made after the season. But I give them a chance to get the thing back. I give them a better chance to bring it back to Sunrise than I give the Heat a chance to get it back to Miami. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, our problem with it is, we've experienced this, maybe much more so than Lubie, who is not really a Vegas guy, but. The 2-night, 3-day stay in Las Vegas is probably the most deadly kind of trip that you could take. Because nothing good happens, on the 2-night stay. You're too excited. And, I guess, they're going to be out there for a couple of nights before they get this thing going. But is Vegas in hockey the equivalent of South Beach in basketball, would you say?
I think it's worse.
Worst. Okay. The opportunities are massive there to get into some kind of
it's been a long time since anybody from out of town got into trouble in South Beach. Really, right? I don't even know where South Beach is anymore. I avoid it to such a degree.
That's true, too.
Like,
I haven't been there in years.
I don't go across 395. And I'll say this, like, everybody thinks everybody plays there. And Messi plays at South Beach, too, when he actually plays next to a Miami Grill and a 7-Eleven off Commercial Boulevard.
Yeah.
I don't the Vegas thing is real, though. I think the Vegas thing is real. You get stuck in one of those casinos and it's like you lose track of time. Then they put clocks on the wall.
There's no clocks. There's no light.
No,
zero. Yeah, nothing. I think that's by design.
It is. It is.
Well, we know that, but
yeah.
All right. Well, it's been very exciting, and you would have to say that the Panthers certainly got people a little bit more enthusiastic and put hockey for however briefly it lasts here in South Florida. They at least put hockey on the map where people might be inclined to start paying attention to them again next year. Scoop, always a pleasure, my friend. All right. You know what? You're not alone in thinking that the Casper Ruud thing was a stretch.
Yeah. Slight.
I sent that picture out to a bunch of people. Nobody responded and said, "Yeah,
they look nothing like it."
No. You know what? I'll say this though. I used to get compared to Craig Counsell.
Craig Counsell. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of resemblance there.
More than Ruud.
Yeah.
Much more handsome, much more dynamic looking than Craig Counsell.
Well, I mean, the nose is bad, but it's not that bad.
And Craig's a little pasty, huh? I mean, it was all those afternoons in South Bend. I mean, he's a little pasty. He never got used to the sunshine down here. Always a pleasure. What do you have cooking on 5 Reasons today? I would imagine
everything and anything. Actually, we got a watch party tonight at Tropical Distillers in Alapata, about 10 minutes outside of Miami. So we'll be there around 7 o'clock.
Where's Alapata? Which direction?
West.
North?
Slightly west, yes. So they're kind of doing to Alapata what they did to Wynwood a little bit. So,
it sounds like you're out in the swamp there, Alapata.
Yeah. It's a warehousey type place, but it's actually, you know who owns the place? The Pouncey brothers.
That's funny.
So it's we've done a couple watch parties there before. Should be a good time. We said either way, either we're going to drink to an incredible win, or we're going to drink to the season, or we're just going to drink to drink. And that's pretty much how it goes.
So you can hang out with Scoop Skolnick there at the watch party. You guys were very successful with that. I remember when you first started 5 Reasons, you were holding watch parties, and I'd look and go, wow, look at that. People showed up.
I was surprised, too.
Yeah.
One of your sponsors, actually, Texas Roadhouse, was our original watch party spot. And
they're really good. I mean, we always got the same thing whenever Lubie and I were doing something like that. It was the manager would come over and very sheepishly approach you with the idea that and ask you, guys, I thought you had a following.
Oh, right.
And we were like, well, I mean, they might come later. I don't know. I don't think you publicize this thing so well, But anyway, good luck with that, Ethan, and we'll talk again soon. And we'll get your what a lot of people think are going to be a postscript on tonight's game and tonight's and the series for the championship with the Heat being eliminated tonight in Denver. All right, thanks so much, Ethan. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.
All right, Ethan Skolnick.
Always a great time talking to the one and only the founder, I guess CEO, president, Mr. 5 Reasons Sports, also host himself, analyst himself. He was on this morning talking about the series of the Heat and Nuggets in the NBA Finals. And tonight they get back. They tip off again. Tonight, 8:30, back in Denver, up a commanding 3-1 as the Heat fell short both halves at home. Good first halves, horrendous second halves. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, really non-existent on both ends of the floor in this series. Tyler Hero still hasn't sniffed the court in this series. And Jimmy Butler's doing, and Bam Adebayo are doing everything they can, but there's only so much as the Nuggets. It's funny, Jokic and Murray were held in check for the most part, but Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown came in and made it tough for the Heat. The Heat now down 3-1 tonight. That series continues. We talked with Ethan about it, and it feels like the Heat, look, at some point you play a team that's better, and the Nuggets are just better. I don't see the series coming back to Miami, and I do think this is a vastly successful season, and I think it's going to be a very, very, very fun offseason. The Panthers, again, same thing. I think they have a better chance against the Knights. I don't think they come back. It felt like they should have taken both games at home. They didn't, and it feels like that both series are done. But listen, as 8th seeds, it is impressive what these teams have done, and it feels like the future is bright for both of these teams. Check us out each and every morning. We'll talk more on Defo on 5 about the finals and the Marlins, who have been hot find themselves right in the thick of the playoff hunt already in the season. Yeah, look, it's early in baseball, but for the Marlins, usually they're out of it, so it's really cool to see them still in it, in the thick of things. And Messi is going to be a part of the South Florida sports scene, so we'll talk about that as well. Check us out here on Defo on 5 Reasons Sports Network. Check us out each and every morning, The Defo Show with Lubie on South Florida Live. Check out our national podcast, the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours, and our South Florida content right here, The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. 5 Reasons.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?